It could be your first time learning to solo on guitar, or you might already be playing at a professional level. But whatever your skill level or even style, what I'm going to show you today makes that horrible feeling of self-doubt on guitar vanish. And it's such a simple concept that it's kind of insane that it works so well. So in this video, I'll show you what this practice approach is, how to use it to play more confidently and expressively, and how it can even make your shred guitar solos sound 10 times better. So what is the first thing you're taught when you learn to solo on guitar? Well, it's usually this scale right here. But the trap that we fall into is we start to play solos that sound like this. And then we think the solution is just to play faster or maybe change direction or add some bends. But then instead we just sound like this. It just sounds less musical, and it feels like we're going backwards with our solos. You see, in this situation, using the entire scale or playing faster isn't always better. In fact, it usually ends up making us sound even worse. But there is a very simple solution which I will implement now, and see if you can hear the difference with this solo. Hopefully you thought that that was a better solo, and you might have noticed that there was more space, there was more articulations, and there was much better time feel. But you might also have noticed that I only used these 4 notes for the entire solo. So forcing yourself to do something like this is called a limitation exercise. And what's incredible about this approach to your soloing when you practice is that when you limit yourself to just a handful of notes, good things like this will automatically start to happen in your playing. Automatically, you'll start to listen to the music more and get a better time feel. And having less note options kind of forces you to be more creative. And the best part is, you'll get better at saying more with less. And I know that might sound cheesy and cliche, but if you think of your favorite solos, even the more technical and shred solos have a lot of long held out notes, and those are the notes that you remember. But warning, there is a mistake you need to avoid with this. And if you ignore this part, you won't get any of the benefits. And that is that you should always use a backing track when doing limitation exercises. So make sure to use a backing track and not even just a metronome. Because unless you're actually playing with other musicians, it's really the only way that you're going to get these benefits. But what about shredding? How can we use limitation exercises to become expressive and melodic in our solos, but then still rip out these awesome shred licks and the same solo? Well, before I get to that, I need to show you how you can use limitation exercises to actually get better at any aspect of your soloing. To do that, you just need to practice with a limitation that forces you to use that aspect. For example, if I wanted to work on using more string skipping, then I could play a solo using only the E and G string, and that would force me to get better at that, because with this limitation, it feels harder to not string skip. Or if I wanted to use more slides in my solos and more position changes, I might limit myself to just one string, and then it actually also becomes harder to not slide. I actually go into a lot more detail on this in the shred routine roadmap. The link to that's in the description if you're interested. Right, so this is how I would set up a limitation exercise to include shredding. The backing track I'm about to play over has an 8-bar progression, and I'm only allowed to shred over the last 2 bars. For the rest of the time, I have to play only these 5 notes, and I'm not allowed to play anything faster than an 8th note. Get stuck constantly shredding because you have no melodic ideas, this is a great exercise to force more creativity but still be able to have fun and get those shred licks in there. But how do you learn awesome shred licks in the first place? Well, click this video next to check out the first shred lick that every guitarist should learn.